This chapter is called Give Yourself Grace. It is a hard pill to swallow, but the harsh truth is sometimes it is our own behavior that pushes the pause button on our purpose. Who wants to take the blame for being the creator of their own misery? At many times in my life, it was my mistakes and shortcomings that made my world chaotic. If you have ever failed yourself, you know exactly what I am talking about. There are few things harder than looking in the mirror and knowing that the person staring back at you is the one who has failed you, disappointed you, and held you back. That moment is more than a reality check. It is a slap in the face and a hurtful blow to your confidence and self-esteem. It presents you with the challenge of figuring out how to still love you even though you made a mistake and got it wrong somewhere along the journey. One random day, I evaluated my life and began to think about where I was and where I thought I should have been but wasn't because of my own decisions and mistakes. I pondered the many things that I didn't accomplish, the hurdles I did not try to overcome, the friendships that were unworthy priorities that I gave my focus to, the many wrong investments, and so on and so forth. The more that I thought about it, the more upset with myself I became. Before I knew it, that anger gradually became resentment. And let me just say this, resentment becomes a completely different ball game when the recipient of your resentment is you. When you have resentment in your heart towards your own self, life becomes exceedingly complicated and it slowly reduces the belief that you have in yourself. The lack of belief has the potential to make life come to a complete standstill. Why? Anyone who doesn't have enough courage in themselves will not go after their purpose because regret makes you dwell on your shortcomings. That is what happened to me. For a long while, I didn't do anything that seemed beyond my ability to get right because my mind was still wrapped around what I had done wrong before. But there comes a time when you have to try again. My big brother Sean said something so profound and has stuck with me since I heard it. He said, and I quote, "If you don't allow God to heal you from the memory of the mistake, you will bury your destiny in the valley of dry bones." If your mind does not receive healing, your heart won't release the regret that you are holding. A regret-filled heart is a heart that is incapable of loving anyone, including the person who it belongs to. In order to rid your heart and life of regretful memories and indignant feelings toward yourself, you absolutely must aggressively deal with what is on the inside of your mind. In order to combat the negative thoughts that control your thinking and your view of yourself, you need to begin by adjusting your thinking from someone who failed to someone that is deserving of a second chance. Until you believe that you are worth being forgiven by yourself, you will never take the initiative to forgive yourself. Before that can happen, it is crucially important that your old way of thinking is done away with. The battle of overcoming regret with forgiveness begins and ends in your mind. Deceptive compensation. As discussed in the previous portion of this chapter, we understand that when you are resentful and regretful towards yourself, you deprive yourself of love. Given this, I want to share something very interesting with you that I came to notice about being controlled by resentment and regret. I think this will help you understand the detriment of not forgiving yourself. The consequence of not forgiving yourself is something called deceptive compensation. Deceptive compensation is influenced by regret, and it is the action of making yourself pay for what you did wrong by withholding love from yourself but giving it to others. Regret deceives you into believing that the cost for shortcomings is rejecting yourself but supporting others. To illustrate deceptive compensation, here is a personal example. During periods of beating myself up for mistakes made and missed opportunities, I would invest excessive time into loving and supporting everyone else, particularly anyone that was exceeding at things I failed at in the past. One half of me did it because I have an intrinsic desire to do so, and then the other half of me did it only to feel better about myself. If this behavior sounds familiar, that also means that you have been making compensations that are grounded in deception. Deception ends when you have knowledge of the truth. If you want to put an end to making deceptive compensations, be honest and tell yourself the truth. And the truth is simply this: you do not have to pay for anything you have done wrong in the past by overindulging yourself in everyone else's life and neglecting all of your dreams, aspirations, and goals in the process. Your mind is the entryway through which regret and resentment come in. If you are going to defeat them in order to forgive yourself, you must retract your steps and revisit the place where you stopped believing in your own self. There are times when going a few steps backwards is the only way moving forward will ever become possible. In order to attain total healing and forgiveness, this work will require your efforts as well as help from God. Be bold enough to give God access to your mind so that every thought and attitude that prevents you from moving on can be uprooted and removed. Giving up on yourself will always be comfortable, but it will never be a healthy solution. When you decide to live with regret, you are actually choosing to live your life without purpose and passion. You are deciding to bury your destiny. As long as you are regretful, you will quit before you begin. You will talk yourself out of what God is calling you to, and you will never discover the abundance life has to offer. We are not here to live a life that represents perfection. We are here to live a life that embodies grace. The presence of grace does not exempt us from failures, but it does empower us to not give up on ourselves after we have failed. God's grace didn't end at your last mistake, so neither should your love for yourself. You lie to yourself by telling yourself that you are content when the truth is, shame has made you comfortable with not continuing. As life passes you by, you find another excuse to justify why you have not progressed. Aren't you tired of forcing yourself to fit in where you don't belong? Aren't you tired of blaming previous mistakes and bad decisions for why your potential is not being maximized? If your answer is yes, do something about it. Here's a grace challenge for you. Tell yourself that you are sorry. Don't subject yourself to the kind of suffering that can be avoided by 3 simple words. I forgive me. Your mouth holds the grace that your heart needs. You might have to stand in front of the mirror every day and repeat those words until you feel forgiven. But if that is what it takes, do it. You are worth whatever work it will take to give yourself a new beginning.